Kang Yoon looked at his new wife with pure contempt. "Let's be clear about what this is," he said coldly, not even glancing at the marriage certificate they'd just signed. "You're here because my dying father forced this. Because your idiot brother owed me money and offered you like property. You mean nothing to me." Kayaal Mensah stood in the civil office, still wearing the simple white dress she'd been told to wear, her dark skin glowing against the fabric, her eyes showing the shock of someone whose life had just been sold. "I didn't ask for this," she started. "I don't care what you asked for. Here are the rules. You live in my house. You play the dutiful wife in public. But in private, you're nothing. Don't expect love, kindness, or even basic respect. You're a business arrangement, an obligation I'll fulfill for 2 years, then discard." His eyes, cold and beautiful, finally met hers. "And if you even think about being with another man while you wear my ring, I'll destroy you. You're mine to hate, not yours to do with as you please. Understood?" She should have run. She should have fought, but she'd signed papers, made promises. And now she was trapped in a marriage to a man who promised to make her life hell. Starting now. 72 hours earlier, Accra, Ghana. Kayaal Mensah was preparing for her flight to Seoul when her younger brother Kwame arrived at her apartment, looking terrified. "I need your help," he said without preamble. "I'm in trouble. Bad trouble." "What kind of trouble?" Kayaal asked, though she had a sinking feeling she already knew. Kwame had always been reckless with money, chasing quick schemes and empty promises. "I owe money to some very dangerous people in Seoul. I was trying to help, trying to gather evidence for your investigation into the trafficking networks. But I got caught. They said if I don't pay 50 million won by the end of the week, they'll—" His voice broke. "They'll kill me, Kayaal. Or worse, they'll come after you. How much is 50 million won?" "About 40,000 US dollars. Money I don't have. Money I can't get." He grabbed her hands. But they offered an alternative, a way to clear the debt completely. Kayaal's stomach dropped. "What alternative?" "Marriage. The boss's father is dying, wants his son to settle down, get married to someone respectable. They heard about you, the humanitarian worker, the NGO director. They think marrying you would legitimize their business, make them look respectable internationally." Kwame's eyes were desperate. 1 marriage, 2 years. Then you're free, the debt is cleared, and we're both safe. You're asking me to marry a criminal to save your life? I'm begging you. These aren't ordinary criminals, Kayaal. The Kang Syndicate, they control everything. If you don't do this, we're both dead. They know about your investigation. They know you're coming to Seoul. This is our only option. There's always another option. Not this time. I already told them you'd do it. They're sending papers. You sign, you fly to Seoul. You marry Kang Yoon in 3 days. 2 years later, you divorce and walk away. That's it. That's it? Kwame, you sold me into marriage without my consent. I saved both our lives. His desperation turned to anger. You think I wanted this? You think I'm proud of this? But it's done. The papers are legally binding. If you don't show up, they'll consider it breach of contract, and they'll kill us both. Kayaal wanted to scream, wanted to hit him, wanted to undo every choice that had led to this moment. But she was also pragmatic. If Kwame had indeed been caught investigating the Kang Syndicate as part of her NGO's work, then he was in real danger. And if marrying this Kang Yoon for 2 years could save his life and potentially give her inside access to the trafficking network she was investigating. I want to see the papers, every clause, every condition. I'm not signing anything blind. They're in your email, sent an hour ago. Kwame pulled out his phone, showing her the message from a law firm in Seoul. Kayaal read through the contract with growing dread. It was comprehensive, legally binding, and absolutely terrifying. She would marry Kang Yoon in a civil ceremony, live with him for 2 years, play the role of dutiful wife in public. In exchange, Kwame's debt would be cleared, and she'd receive a settlement at the end of 2 years. Enough money to fund her NGO for a decade. But there were clauses that made her blood run cold. She couldn't divorce him during the 2 years without financial penalty. She had to attend all public events as his wife. She couldn't disparage him or his business publicly. And she had to sign an NDA about anything she witnessed regarding his operations. "This is a trap," she said. "This isn't about marriage. This is about controlling me, silencing my investigation. Maybe. But it's also about survival. Ours." Kwame met her eyes. "I'm sorry, sister. I'm so sorry. But please, sign the papers. Save us both." Kayaal looked at her brother. Foolish, reckless, but still her family. Still the little boy she'd raised after their parents died. She signed the papers and sealed her fate. Seoul. 3 days later, the civil office was sterile, efficient, designed for quick legal transactions rather than romantic ceremonies. Kayaal stood in her simple white dress. The only instruction she'd received was, "Wear white," waiting for the man she was about to marry. When Kang Yoon walked in, she understood immediately why he was feared. He was beautiful in a dangerous way. Sharp features, cold eyes, the kind of presence that made you instinctively step back. He wore all black, expensive, and perfectly tailored, and he looked at her like she was an inconvenience he had to endure. "You're Kayaal Mensah," he said. Not a question, a statement. "Yes, and you're Kang Yoon." Obviously. He sat at the desk where the marriage official waited. "Let's get this over with. I have actual business to attend to." The ceremony was brutal in its efficiency. No vows, no rings initially. Those came later, handed over by Yoon's assistant Min like props. No acknowledgement that this was supposed to be meaningful. Sign here, initial there, witnessed, stamped, married. 14 minutes from start to finish. Afterward, in the hallway, Yoon delivered his speech, his rules, his hatred laid out with clinical precision. And Kayaal realized her brother hadn't just sold her into marriage. He'd sold her into hell. The mansion was stunning. Modern architecture in Gangnam, clearly worth millions, staffed with silent servants who avoided eye contact. Min, Yoon's right-hand man, showed Kayaal to her room. "Mrs. Kang, this is your suite. Separate from Mr. Kang's quarters. You'll have privacy here. Meals are served at specific times. You're expected to attend dinner with Mr. Kang each evening for appearance's sake. Any questions?" "Yes. Why does your boss hate me so much?" "We just met." Min's expression softened slightly. "He doesn't hate you personally. He hates what you represent. The end of his freedom. His father forced this marriage on his deathbed. Mr. Kang has someone else he intended to marry. You're the obstacle to that. So I'm paying for his father's choices and his inability to defy a dead man. Something like that. Min hesitated. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. This situation isn't fair to you, but Mr. Kang will keep his word. 2 years, then you're free. Just don't expect kindness during that time. He doesn't know how to give it anymore. After Min left, Kayaal explored her suite. It was luxurious but sterile, a guest room, not a home. No personal touches, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. She found her suitcases had been delivered. Unpacking mechanically, she tried to process her new reality. Married to a stranger who hated her, trapped for 2 years, unable to continue her investigation into the very trafficking network her husband likely controlled. This was a nightmare. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Yoon entered without waiting for permission, establishing immediately that privacy was an illusion. First dinner as husband and wife, he said mockingly. Don't worry, I won't make you pretend to be happy. This is just for the staff. They need to believe we're a real couple. So smile, play along, and don't embarrass me. Embarrass you? You're the one who what? Told you the truth. That this marriage is a business arrangement forced on me by my dying father? That you're here because your brother is a gambling idiot who offered you as collateral? His smile was cruel. I'm not the villain here, Kayaal. I'm just honest. You're the victim of your brother's choices. Direct your anger at him, not me. You could have refused, could have let the debt stand and dealt with Kwame another way. And disobey my father's dying wish? Lose my inheritance? Watch everything I've built collapse? He moved closer, invading her space. No, I keep my promises to my father, even the ones I hate. Which means I'm stuck with you, and you're stuck with me. So let's at least be civil in public, even if we're enemies in private. I'm not your enemy. No, you're worse. You're my obligation. An anchor around my neck for 2 years. He turned to leave, then stopped. And remember what I said earlier. You're mine to hate. If I even suspect you're seeing someone else, seeking comfort elsewhere, trying to embarrass me publicly, I'll destroy you, and your brother, and everyone you love. Not because I care about you, but because you bear my name, and no one makes a fool of Kang Yoon. Understood? Perfectly. Good. Dinner is in 10 minutes. Don't be late. He left, and Kayaal sat on the bed, trembling with rage and fear and helplessness. She was trapped in a loveless marriage to a cruel man who saw her as property to control and resent. 2 years suddenly felt like a lifetime. But as she stared at the unfamiliar ring on her finger, she made herself a promise. She wouldn't just endure this. She'd survive it. And somehow, she'd find a way to maintain her humanity, even married to a man who'd clearly lost his. Starting with dinner, where she'd smile politely and play the role he demanded, while planning exactly how she'd investigate the trafficking network from inside his home. Kang Yoon thought he'd trapped her. He had no idea who he'd actually married, and by the time he figured it out, it would be too late. For both of them. Would you accept a marriage like this to save your family? Could you live with someone who openly hates you? What would you do in Kayaal's situation? Let me know in the comments. If you're already hooked and can't wait to see how Kayaal survives this cruel marriage, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you think will happen next. Trust me, this story is about to explore hatred, possession, and the dangerous line between control and protection. Now, let's continue. The first week of marriage was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Yoon kept his word about the rules: civil in public, cruel in private. At business dinners and social events, he played the attentive husband perfectly, his hand on her lower back, guiding her through rooms, introducing her as my wife with just enough warmth to seem genuine, smiling at her across tables while his eyes remained cold. But the moment they were alone, the mask dropped. "You are too friendly with Kim Enterprises' CEO tonight," he said after one dinner, his voice ice, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm. "Trying to make me look weak? I was being polite, professional, the things normal people do in social situations. You're not a normal person anymore. You're my wife, and my wife doesn't give other men the impression she's available." He moved closer, intimidating. "I meant what I said. You're mine to hate. That possessive ownership includes how you present yourself. Understood? I'm not your property. Legally, you are. For 2 years. So behave accordingly." Kayaal learned quickly that arguing was futile. Yoon had an answer for everything, a justification for every cruelty. So she stopped arguing and started observing. She noticed patterns. Yoon worked late most nights, coming home after midnight, smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't hers. He took calls in different languages: Korean, Mandarin, English, all business, all intense. And he had visitors, men in expensive suits who looked like they'd killed people, women who dressed too perfectly to be anything but dangerous. "Who was that woman?" Kayaal asked one morning after a particularly elegant visitor had left at 2 a.m. "Business associate, not your concern." "She was in our home at 2 a.m. That makes it my concern. This is my home. You're just living here temporarily." Yoon poured coffee, not offering her any. "But if you must know, that was Seo Hye-jin, my business partner. We run several operations together." "Operations, that's a vague term." "Intentionally so. The less you know about my business, the better." His eyes held hers. "Unless you're curious? Want to know what your husband really does? The criminal empire you're now legally tied to. I know you're involved in luxury goods smuggling. Possibly human trafficking, though I haven't confirmed that yet." She watched his reaction carefully. "That's why my NGO was investigating Korean smuggling networks. That's probably why your father chose me, to legitimize your operations through marriage to a humanitarian." Yoon's smile was dangerous. "Smart, observant. Yes, my father thought marrying you would make us look respectable. A humanitarian wife, public charity work, the appearance of going legitimate. But here's what he didn't consider. I don't want to go legitimate. I like my empire exactly as it is. Dark, profitable, and unrestricted by laws. Even if it means trafficking human beings? I deal in luxury goods, not people. There's a difference." But something flickered in his eyes. Discomfort, maybe guilt. "My organization has standards. We don't touch that particular type of operation." "Then why was my brother investigating you for trafficking connections?" "Because your brother is an idiot who doesn't understand nuance. He assumed all criminal organizations are the same. They're not." Yoon set down his coffee cup with precision. "But this conversation is over. Stop investigating me. Stop asking questions. Just play your role and stay out of my business. For 2 years. For 2 years. he agreed. Then you're free, and I'm free, and we never have to see each other again. But there was something in the way he said it, almost like regret, that caught Kayaal's attention. 2 weeks into the marriage, Kayaal met Seo Hyejin properly. The woman appeared at the mansion during the day, let in by staff like she owned the place. She was stunning, elegant in a dangerous way, wearing designer clothes and confidence like armor. "You must be the wife," Hyejin said, her Korean accented but clear. "I'm Seo Hyejin, Yoon's business partner, and," she smiled, "much more, until his father forced this ridiculous marriage." "Much more," Kayaal repeated carefully. "We were together for 5 years, planning to marry, build the empire together. Then his father got sick and decided Yoon needed a respectable wife. Someone humanitarian, someone black." She said the last word with barely concealed disgust. "So here you are, the diversity hire of wives. That's racist. That's reality. You're a prop. I'm the actual relationship." Hyejin moved closer. "So let's be clear. Yoon may be legally married to you, but emotionally, financially, in every way that matters, he's mine. Always has been, always will be. You're a 2-year inconvenience. I'm his future. Does Yoon know you're here, threatening his wife?" "Threatening? I'm educating. There's a difference." Hyejin's smile was sharp. "But yes, Yoon knows I'm here. He asked me to check on you, make sure you understand your place, which is decorative, temporary, irrelevant beyond the paperwork." After Hyejin left, Kayaal sat in the empty mansion, processing. The cruelty wasn't just Yoon's personality. It was strategic, keeping her at a distance so he could maintain his relationship with Hyejin. The possessive threats about other men weren't about wanting her. They were about control, ownership without affection. She was trapped in a marriage where her husband loved someone else and hated her for existing. That night, Yoon came home earlier than usual, and Kayaal confronted him. "Hyejin visited today. Said you sent her to educate me about my place." "I did." "And did she? Educate you?" He poured himself whiskey, not offering her any. "She told me you're still together, that I'm temporary. She's correct, on both counts." Yoon turned to face her, whiskey in hand. "I loved Hyejin before my father forced this marriage. I still love her. This," he gestured between them, "this isn't real. It's obligation. So yes, I'm still with her, in every way that matters. And you'll tolerate it, because you have no choice. I could leave, break the contract, and condemn your brother to death, lose the settlement money you're clearly depending on, destroy your NGO's reputation when I reveal exactly why this marriage happened." His smile was cruel. "No, you won't leave. You'll stay. You'll endure. Because you're practical. And because," he moved closer, "deep down, you're curious. About me, about this world, about whether underneath the cruelty, there's something worth saving. There isn't. You've made that clear. Good. Then we understand each other." He drained his whiskey. "I'm going out. Don't wait up. And don't question where I'm going or who I'm with. That's not your business." "But I'm your wife." "You're my legal obligation. Nothing more." He grabbed his jacket. "Hyejin is my wife in everything but paperwork. You're the paperwork I'm stuck with for 2 years. Know the difference." He left, and Kayaal stood in the empty mansion, rage and humiliation burning through her. This was her life now, watching her husband openly carry on with another woman, being told she was irrelevant, enduring cruelty disguised as honesty. But as she sat there, something shifted. Anger transformed into determination. Yoon thought he'd broken her spirit, thought she'd just endure passively for 2 years. He was wrong. The next morning, Kayaal started her own investigation. She'd come to Seoul to expose trafficking networks. Being married to a crime boss, even a cruel one, gave her access she'd never have otherwise. So she'd use it. She started carefully, observing the visitors, noting the times of meetings, tracking the pattern of Yoon's absences. She couldn't access his office or computer, too risky, but she could listen, watch, and gather evidence slowly. Min noticed first. "Mrs. Kang, you seem observant lately, watching everyone carefully. I'm bored. This mansion is beautiful, but isolating. Watching people is entertainment. Or intelligence gathering." His eyes were sharp. "Mr. Kang won't appreciate you investigating his business." "I'm not investigating. I'm just curious." Curiosity is dangerous in this world, especially for someone in your position. But his expression wasn't threatening. It was almost concerned. "Be careful. There are people in this organization who wouldn't hesitate to hurt you if they thought you were a threat. And Mr. Kang's protection only extends so far." "Why are you warning me?" "Because despite everything, I don't think you deserve this. The forced marriage, the cruelty, being trapped in a situation not of your making." Min hesitated. "Mr. Kang he wasn't always like this. Before his father got sick, before the forced marriage, he was different. Still dangerous, still criminal, but not cruel. Something broke in him when his father made him choose between the woman he loves and his inheritance. So I'm paying for his inability to defy his father. Yes, and that's not fair, but it's reality." Min's expression hardened. "Just be careful. This house has eyes. This organization has rules. And Mr. Kang's hatred of you, however painful, is probably the only thing keeping certain people from seeing you as a target." After Min left, Kayaal considered his warning. Who would target her? Why? And what did he mean about Yoon's hatred being protection? She didn't have time to analyze it further, because Aqua called from Ghana, her best friend who'd been horrified by the forced marriage. "How bad is it?" Aqua asked immediately. "Worse than I imagined. He hates me, Aqua. Openly. Cruelly. Says I'm just an obligation he's enduring for 2 years. Can you leave? Break the contract. Not without consequences I can't accept. Kwame's life, my NGO's funding, legal complications, I'm trapped." Kayaal moved to the window, watching Seoul's skyline. "But I'm not going to be passive. I'm going to investigate from the inside. Gather evidence on this trafficking network. Turn this nightmare into an opportunity." "That's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. But I didn't come to Seoul to be a decorative wife. I came to expose trafficking. This marriage just gave me access I wouldn't have otherwise. What if he catches you? Then I deal with the consequences. But Aqua, I can't just endure this for 2 years. I have to do something meaningful, or I'll lose myself completely." After the call, Kayaal felt more determined. Yes, this marriage was hell. Yes, Yoon was cruel. But she wasn't powerless. She'd survive this 2 years, and she'd make them count, even if it meant investigating the very man she was trapped with. That evening, at another business dinner, Kayaal met someone unexpected. A man approached their table, late 40s, expensive suit, dangerous eyes. Kang Yoon, and this must be your new wife. How unexpected. Mr. Choi, Yoon's voice was carefully neutral. I didn't know you'd be attending tonight. Last minute addition. I heard rumors of your marriage and had to see for myself. Choi turned his attention fully to Kayaal, a humanitarian worker, Ghanaian, working with NGOs investigating trafficking. Fascinating choice of bride for someone in your position. My father's choice, Yoon said coldly. Not mine. Ah, the deathbed arrangement. Yes, I heard about that. Choi's smile was knowing. Tell me, Mrs. Kang, do you know what your husband does? The empire you've married into? I know enough, Kayaal said carefully. Do you? Do you know about the operations in Busan? The partnerships with Chinese networks? The, shall we say, questionable cargo that moves through Incheon port? His eyes glittered. Or are you willfully blind, choosing comfort over conscience? That's enough, Yoon interrupted, standing. My wife's understanding of my business is none of your concern. Everything about your business concerns me. We're competitors, after all. Choi turned back to Kayaal. A word of advice, Mrs. Kang. Be careful investigating your husband. People who dig too deep into the Kang Syndicate tend to disappear, even wives. He walked away, leaving tension crackling at the table. What was that? Kayaal demanded once they were alone. A warning. Choi runs a rival organization. He's probably pleased my father forced this marriage, thinks it makes me weak, distracted, vulnerable. Yoon's jaw clenched. Which is why you need to stop investigating. Stop asking questions. You're painting a target on yourself. Or he's trying to intimidate me because I actually am a threat to whatever operations you're running. You're not a threat. You're a liability. Yoon grabbed her arm, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to make his point. Listen carefully. My world is dangerous. People like Choi would kill you just to hurt me. Your investigation, your curiosity, your righteous humanitarian mission, all of it makes you vulnerable. So stop, for your own safety. You don't care about my safety. You hate me. Remember? I hate what you represent. That doesn't mean I want you dead. He released her arm. We're leaving. This dinner is over. In the car ride home, Kayaal processed what had happened. Choi's warning, Yoon's reaction, the mention of questionable cargo and operations in multiple ports. This wasn't just luxury goods smuggling. This was bigger, darker, and she was right in the middle of it. Married to a man who claimed to hate her, but just displayed something that looked almost like protection. The contradictions were dizzying. But one thing was becoming clear. Kang Yoon was more complicated than the cruel mask he wore. And that complication might be the key to surviving the next 2 years. If she could figure out what lay beneath the hatred. Before someone like Choi decided she was too dangerous to let live. 3 weeks into the marriage, Kayaal's world shattered when she received a video call from Kwame. He was in a dark room, his face bruised, terror in his eyes. And standing behind him was a man in a mask. Kayaal, I'm sorry. Kwame started, but the masked man cut him off. Mrs. Kang, how lovely to finally speak directly. The voice was distorted, electronic. Your brother has been problematic. We need to discuss his real debt. The debt was cleared by the marriage. That was the agreement. The gambling debt? Yes, that's cleared. But your brother's other debt, the one he incurred by trying to expose our trafficking operations to Interpol. That remains very much open. Kayal's blood went cold. What are you talking about? Your brother wasn't just gambling, he was investigating. Working with your NGO to gather evidence against the Kang Syndicate's involvement in human trafficking. He got caught, and the only reason he's still alive is because we thought his sister, you, might be useful leverage. I don't understand. The marriage wasn't about clearing a simple debt, Mrs. Kang. It was about controlling you, keeping you close to Kang Yoon so we could monitor your investigation. Your NGO has been a thorn in our operations for months. This marriage ensures you're neutralized. Who are you? You're not part of Yoon's organization? No, but we work closely together, and we have mutual interests in keeping you silent about certain operations. The masked figure moved closer to Kwame. Here's how this works. You stop investigating. You destroy any evidence your brother gathered. And you stay married to Kang Yoon, playing the perfect obedient wife. Do that, and your brother lives. Continue investigating, and he pulled out a knife, pressing it to Kwame's throat. Well, use your imagination. The call ended. Kayaal sat frozen, mind racing. The marriage wasn't just Yoon's father's deathbed wish. It was strategic imprisonment. They'd used Kwame to trap her, to silence her investigation, to neutralize the one NGO that was getting close to exposing their network. And Yoon, did he know? Was he part of this? Or was he as manipulated as she was? She had to find out. That night, Kayaal confronted Yoon in his office. She didn't knock, just stormed in, fury overriding caution. Did you know? She demanded. About Kwame? About the real reason for this marriage? Yoon looked up from his desk, expression unreadable. You'll need to be more specific. Kwame wasn't just gambling. He was investigating your organization, gathering evidence about trafficking operations. And this marriage, it wasn't about your father's dying wish. It was about silencing me, controlling my NGO's investigation. Her voice shook with rage. Did you know? Something shifted in Yoon's expression. What happened? What did you find out? Answer my question first. Did you know the real reason your father arranged this marriage? I knew my father wanted me married to someone respectable. I knew he chose you specifically because of your humanitarian work. I assumed it was about legitimizing our operations. His jaw clenched. What I didn't know was that your brother was actively investigating us, or that there was leverage beyond simple debt. So you're claiming ignorance? That you just went along with this marriage without asking questions? I went along with it because my father was dying, and I gave him my word. I didn't investigate the details because I didn't care. I was focused on losing Hyejin and gaining an unwanted wife. His eyes narrowed. Now tell me what happened. What did you find out? Kayaal explained the call. Kwame's bruises, the masked figure's threats, the revelation that the marriage was strategic imprisonment. By the end, Yoon's expression was dark with fury, but not directed at her. Min, he shouted. His second-in-command appeared immediately. Find out who has Kwame Mensah. I want locations, names, and explanations within the hour. Sir, someone in my organization, or connected to it, is using my wife's brother as leverage without my knowledge. That's insubordination. Find them. Now. After Min left, Yoon turned back to Kayaal. I didn't know about this, about your brother's investigation, or the real leverage. If I had, He stopped. I would have handled it differently. Would you? Or would you have done exactly what they're doing, using him to control me? I don't know, he admitted. But I don't like being manipulated. And whoever did this, using my marriage, my father's death, my organization structure, they played me as much as you. I don't tolerate that. So what now? You find them and what? Kill them? That doesn't help, Kwame. No. First, we find Kwame. Secure him. Then we figure out who's behind this and why. Yoon stood, moving around his desk. You were right to investigate. About the trafficking. My organization doesn't directly traffic people, but we facilitate, provide logistics, transportation, forged documents. We don't ask questions about cargo as long as we're paid. That's still complicity. I know, and I've known for a while that it needed to stop. My father knew it too. That's probably why he really chose you. Force me to confront what my organization does through marriage to someone who would morally oppose it. His expression was complicated. I just didn't expect it to happen like this. With your brother as hostage and you as unwilling bait. Do you actually care? Or is this just wounded pride that someone manipulated you? Both, he said honestly. I care because you're... He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. You're my wife. I may hate this marriage, but you're under my protection. Someone threatening you threatens me, and I don't tolerate threats. That's not the same as caring about me as a person. No, it's not, but it's what I have. He grabbed his phone. I'm making calls, finding your brother, and when I do, you and I are going to have a serious discussion about what you know, what you've investigated, and how we're going to handle this situation without getting you killed. I'm not stopping my investigation. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to work with me instead of around me, because whoever has your brother isn't acting alone. There's a network inside my organization that I didn't know about, and if they're running trafficking operations under my name without my knowledge... His fury was cold, controlled. They're going to regret it. Within 2 hours, Min had answers. The warehouse in Yongsan. Kwame Mensah is being held by a team that reports to Seo Hyejin. The name hung in the air like a bomb. Hyejin? Yoon's voice was deadly quiet. You're certain? Yes, sir. The men holding him are her personal security. The operation he was investigating, the trafficking logistics, that's her division. She's been running it independently, using your organization's resources, but keeping you deliberately uninformed. Why? Unknown. But based on communications we intercepted, she's been building her own network, using your name and reputation as cover while creating operations you don't control. The marriage to Mrs. Kang threatened that, so she orchestrated the brothers' capture to keep Mrs. Kang compliant and silent. Kayaal felt like the ground had dropped beneath her. The woman you love, the woman you wanted to marry instead of me. She's running the trafficking operation. She's the one holding my brother. Apparently, Yoon's expression was unreadable. Min, assemble a team. We're getting Kwame Mensah back, and we're having a conversation with Hyejin about operations I didn't authorize. Sir, if you confront her, this could destroy your relationship. My relationship is already destroyed. She lied to me, used my organization to build her own empire, held my wife's brother hostage. His voice was ice. Whatever I felt for her doesn't survive that level of betrayal. After Min left to organize the extraction team, Kayaal stared at Yoon. You're going to save Kwame. I'm going to retrieve property that was taken without my permission. Your brother, you, this marriage, all of it is mine by right. Hyejin overstepped. She'll answer for it. That's not the same as caring about Kwame's life. No. But the result is the same. He lives. Yoon grabbed his jacket. You're coming with me. I want you to see exactly what kind of operation your brother was investigating. What kind of world you married into. No more ignorance. No more illusions. I don't want illusions. I want the truth. Then you're about to get it. All of it. Starting with watching me confront the woman I loved and discovering she's been playing me for years. The warehouse in Yongsan was exactly as grim as Kayaal had imagined. Industrial, isolated, the kind of place where screams wouldn't be heard. Yoon's team surrounded it quickly, efficiently, cutting off all exits. Inside, they found Kwame in a storage room, bruised, terrified, but alive. Kayaal, he tried to stand, but she rushed to him first. Are you okay? Did they hurt you badly? Nothing permanent. But sister, I'm so sorry. I thought I was helping your investigation. I didn't know I was walking into a trap. We'll discuss it later. Right now, let's just get you out of here. But before they could move, Seo Hyejin appeared with her own security team. Yoon, I should have known you'd figure it out eventually. She was calm, controlled, beautiful even in this moment of confrontation. Though I'm disappointed, I thought I had more time. Time for what? Building an empire under my name without my knowledge? Running trafficking operations I specifically prohibited? Yoon's fury was cold, lethal. How long, Hyejin? How long have you been lying to me? Since the beginning. You were always too moral, too conflicted about the darker operations. So I handled them. Built the profitable networks, while you played at being an honorable criminal. Her smile was sharp, and it worked beautifully until your father forced this ridiculous marriage, until she gestured to Kayaal, until she started threatening to expose operations you didn't even know existed. So you used her brother as leverage, orchestrated this entire situation to keep her silent. I orchestrated everything, Yoon. The gambling debt was real, but I made sure Kwame found the right gambling dens. Made sure he started investigating at exactly the right time to get caught. Made sure your father heard about the perfect bride candidate. Humanitarian, respectable, easily controlled through her foolish brother. Hyejin's expression was triumphant. I turned your father's dying wish into a cage for both of you. You trapped in a marriage you hate, her trapped in silence, and me free to continue building what you were too weak to build. You manipulated my father's death, my marriage, my organization. Yoon moved closer, dangerous. Why? If you wanted the empire, why not just take it? Because I need you, darling. Your name, your reputation, your legitimacy. You're the face everyone fears. I'm the operation everyone underestimates. Together, we were perfect, until she ruined it. Hyejin's hatred focused on Kayaal, the black humanitarian with her naive righteousness, investigating trafficking while married to a trafficker. The irony is delicious. I'm not a trafficker, Yoon said coldly. You are, without my knowledge or consent, using my resources. Semantics. You profited from it. That makes you complicit. Hyejin pulled out a gun. But this conversation is over. I'm taking Kwame, and if any of you try to stop me, He dies. Then her. Then you deal with the consequences of your wife's death. You won't shoot, Yoon said. You need me. Need my organization. I need your name and reputation. I don't need you alive. I can run everything myself with you dead and your grieving widow blamed for your death. She aimed at Kayaal. One bullet. Frame it as a domestic dispute. Your unwanted wife finally snapped. Problem solved. Time seemed to slow. Yoon moved, fast, protective, throwing himself between Kayaal and the gun. The shot rang out. And Kang Yoon, the man who claimed to hate her, who'd promised to make her life hell, who'd said she was nothing but an obligation, took a bullet meant for her. He collapsed, blood spreading across his shoulder, and Kayaal screamed. Chaos erupted in the warehouse. Yoon's security team immediately returned fire, forcing Hyejin and her men to take cover. Min dragged Yoon behind a concrete pillar while Kayaal covered Kwame, her NGO training in crisis zones kicking in. Get them out, Yoon commanded through gritted teeth, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Kayaal and Kwame, extract them now. Not without you, Kayaal said, crawling to his side. The fear in her voice surprised her. This man had been cruel to her for weeks, had told her repeatedly she meant nothing, yet seeing him shot protecting her. I gave you an order. I don't take orders from you. Not about this. She pressed her hands against his wound, trying to slow the bleeding. Min, we need medical. Already called. Extraction vehicle is 2 minutes out. Min returned fire at Hyejin's position. Sir, we need to move you. Another gunshot, then another. Hyejin's voice rang out. You chose her, over me, over everything we built. We built nothing, Yoon shouted back, his voice strained with pain. You built lies, used my name while betraying everything I actually stand for. You stand for nothing. You're weak, conflicted, pretending to have morals while running a criminal empire. Hyejin's rage was unhinged now. I made us powerful. I made the difficult decisions while you played at being honorable. And she, another shot in Kayaal's direction. She was supposed to stay silent, stay controlled, not make you actually care about her. The words hung in the air. Yoon's eyes met Kayaal's. Something raw and vulnerable, visible for the first time. I don't, he started, but his men were moving, creating cover, forcing Hyejin's team to retreat. She's escaping, Min shouted. East exit. Let her go, Yoon commanded. Priority is medical extraction. Get Kayaal and Kwame secured, then get me to Dr. Choi. Within minutes, they were in an armored vehicle, racing through Seoul's streets. Kwame was silent, shocked. Kayaal kept pressure on Yoon's wound, her hands shaking. Why did you do that? She demanded. Take a bullet for me? You hate me. You've made that clear. I don't hate you. The words were quiet, pained. I never hated you. You said, I said a lot of things, cruel things, things designed to keep distance between us. He winced as the vehicle hit a bump, because hating you was easier than admitting the truth. What truth? That my father was right, that you're exactly what I needed to become someone better than what I am. That terrified me, still terrifies me. His eyes held hers. So I performed hatred, kept you at a distance, convinced myself you were just an obligation. But watching Hyejin aim at you, his voice cracked. I couldn't let her hurt you, even if you hate me for everything I've done. I don't hate you, Kayaal admitted quietly. I should, but I don't. Dr. Choi's private clinic was a small, discreet facility in Gangnam. The doctor was efficient, extracting the bullet from Yoon's shoulder within an hour. Clean shot, missed major arteries. You'll heal fine with proper rest, which you won't get, knowing you. After the doctor left, Kayaal sat beside Yoon's bed, while Kwame was treated for his injuries in another room. We need to talk, Yoon said. About everything. No more lies. No more cruelty. Just truth. Okay. Truth. Starting with, why did you really agree to this marriage? And don't say, just because of your father. My father gave me an ultimatum. Marry you and keep the empire, or refuse and watch everything be liquidated for charity. I chose the empire, but he struggled with honesty. I also chose it because some part of me knew he was right, that I'd become someone I didn't want to be, that Hyejin was pulling me deeper into operations I morally opposed, but was too conflicted to stop. Marrying you forced a reckoning. So I'm your moral crisis personified. You're my chance at redemption, which terrified me, because redemption means admitting I need it, that I've done things, facilitated things that are unforgivable. His eyes were raw. The trafficking logistics Hyejin was running? I knew they existed. I chose not to ask questions because the profit was too good, and confronting it meant confronting what I'd become. That's complicity. I know, and I'll have to live with that. He caught her hand, but I'm choosing to stop now, to actually confront it, to dismantle the operations instead of just turning a blind eye. Because you're right, facilitating trafficking is the same as trafficking, and I don't want to be that person anymore. Why? Because you got shot? Because Hyejin betrayed you? Because you looked at me with terror when that gun was pointed at you, and I realized I'd rather die than see you hurt. That's not hatred. That's... He couldn't finish. That's what? Something I don't know how to name yet. Something that developed despite my best efforts to prevent it. Something that makes me want to be worthy of you instead of just legally bound to you. Before Kayaal could respond, Min entered. Sir, we have a problem. Hyejin's escaped the country, private jet to Hong Kong 3 hours ago, and she's taken files, evidence of all your operations. She's threatening to release everything unless you meet her demands. What demands? Full control of the Kang Syndicate. She'll return the files and stay silent if you sign over all operations to her. Refuse, and she releases everything to Interpol, the media, and every rival organization you have. Your empire collapses, you go to prison, and... Min glanced at Kayaal. She specifically threatened Mrs. Kang. Said if you don't comply, she'll make sure Kayaal's NGO is implicated in money laundering charges. Destroy her reputation along with yours. She's insane, Yoon said flatly. I built that empire. She's not taking it. Then she releases everything, and we all go down. Min's expression was grim. You have 48 hours to decide. After Min left, Kayaal processed the impossible situation. If you fight her, I lose everything. My NGO, my reputation, possibly my freedom. If you give in, you lose everything you've built. Then we don't fight her on her terms. We fight on ours. Yoon tried to sit up, wincing. You wanted to expose the trafficking network. I wanted to stop being complicit. Let's do both. We work with Interpol. Turn over evidence ourselves. Controlled release, immunity negotiations, taking down Hyejin's operations while dismantling mine. We don't let her control the narrative. That's that's essentially destroying your own empire. It's choosing justice over pride, you over power. His eyes held hers. I'm choosing you, Kayaal. Finally. Completely. Even if it costs me everything. The plan came together quickly. Too quickly, Kayaal thought. But Yoon was decisive once he'd made his choice. Contact Interpol through back channels. Offer full cooperation in exchange for immunity for specific crimes and protection for Kayaal's NGO. Turn over evidence of Hyejin's trafficking operations along with his own facilitation. Dismantle the entire network from the inside. This will take months, the Interpol liaison explained during a secured video call. Full investigation, testimony, evidence verification. And Mr. Kang, you'll likely face some charges. Not everything qualifies for immunity. I understand. I'll accept consequences for what I've done, but my wife, she stays protected. Her NGO, her reputation, her brother, non-negotiable. Agreed. Mrs. Kang's cooperation is valuable. Her prior investigation into these networks gives her credibility we need. After the call, Kayaal turned to Yoon. You're really doing this, destroying your empire, facing prison. For what? Justice? Redemption? For you. Simple, direct, honest. Everything I built was on compromises I can't live with anymore. Watching Hyejin almost kill you, realizing she'd been manipulating me for years, understanding that my father chose you specifically to force me to confront this. He touched her face gently, the first tender gesture he'd ever given her. You deserve better than being married to a man who facilitates trafficking, even if that means I lose everything to become someone worthy of you. What if you can't become worthy? Then at least I'll have tried. That's more than I was doing before. They were interrupted by Kwame, finally released from medical treatment. He looked between them, reading the changed dynamic. So what now? You two are, what, actually together? After everything? We're figuring it out, Kayaal said carefully. Yoon's cooperating with Interpol, dismantling the operations you tried to expose. Because he loves you? Because he wants to stop being complicit in evil, Yoon corrected. Whether that's love or just basic decency, I don't know yet. But your sister deserves the attempt. What about me? I'm still responsible for getting you both into this situation. You're an idiot, Yoon said bluntly. But you're also my brother-in-law now, so you get one chance to prove you're not a complete liability. Work with Interpol, provide testimony, help take down the network you tried to expose. Do that, and we're even. And if I screw up again, then I'll remember why I wanted to kill you when we first met. But there was no real threat in his voice. Just exhaustion and a strange kind of acceptance. That night, back at the mansion, Kayaal sat with Yoon in his private quarters. The first time she'd been invited into his actual space. His shoulder was bandaged, pain medication making him more vulnerable than usual. They sat on the couch in silence for a long moment before he spoke. I need to tell you something about why I was so cruel. Beyond just the forced marriage and Hyejin. Okay, when I was 19, my mother was killed, murdered by a rival organization who wanted to hurt my father. They chose her because she was his known weakness, the person he loved most. After that, my father taught me, never show love, never let anyone know what you care about, because care is vulnerability. Vulnerability is death. So you performed hatred toward me, To protect you. If my enemies thought I hated you, thought you were just an obligation, they'd have no reason to target you. But if they knew I was developing feelings, he struggled with the word, you'd become the perfect target, like my mother was. That's twisted logic. It's criminal logic. It's how we survive in this world. His eyes met hers. But watching Hyejin point that gun at you, I realized performing hatred doesn't actually protect you. It just makes the time we have together miserable. And if something happens to you anyway, I'll have wasted these months being cruel when I could have been. He stopped. Could have been what? Falling for you. Properly. Without pretense or performance. Just seeing where this impossible situation could go if I stopped fighting it. Kayaal's heart was pounding. So that's what you want? To actually try this marriage? For real? I want to try being honest with you about what I'm feeling, what I'm afraid of, what I'm hoping for. And I want, he reached for her hand, I want to undo the damage I've done. The cruel words, the deliberate distance, the making you feel worthless. You're not worthless. He laughed bitterly. You're probably too good for me. But I'm selfish enough to want you anyway. I'm not too good for you. I'm just different. And maybe that's what we both need. Maybe. He pulled her closer, carefully because of his injured shoulder. Stay with me tonight. Not because you have to. Not because of the contract. Just because you want to. Are you sure? You're on pain medication. I'm not asking for anything physical. Just presence. I've slept alone in this house for years, keeping everyone at a distance. Tonight, I don't want distance. I want you here, if you're willing. Kayaal should have said no, should have maintained boundaries, protected herself from more potential heartbreak. But looking at this man, broken, honest, trying, she couldn't. Okay, I'll stay. They lay together carefully, his injured shoulder creating awkward positioning, but neither caring. And for the first time since the forced marriage, Kayaal felt something other than fear or rage. She felt hope, that maybe, just maybe, something real could grow from this impossible situation, if they were both brave enough to try. But 2 floors below, in the mansion's security room, someone was making a call. She's with him. They're together. This complicates things. Then accelerate the timeline. We can't let Kang Yoon cooperate with Interpol. Everything we've built depends on keeping those operations secret. What about the wife? If she's become a liability, handle her. Make it look like an accident. Yoon won't cooperate if he's grieving. Understood. The call ended, and the real danger, hidden inside Yoon's own organization, prepared to strike. Kayaal woke to morning sickness for the 3rd day in a row. She'd been attributing it to stress, the forced marriage, the confrontation with Hyejin, the near-death experience. But as she dry-heaved over the toilet in her bathroom, counting back the weeks, a horrifying realization dawned. 7 weeks ago. The night Yoon had come home drunk, devastated after a business deal went wrong. She'd found him in the living room, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. They'd talked for hours, real conversation, not the usual cruelty. And then, she barely remembered how it started, just that suddenly they were kissing, desperate and raw, all the tension between them exploding into something physical. They'd ended up in his bedroom, and the next morning, he'd acted like it never happened. went back to his cold, distant routine. She'd convinced herself it was meaningless. A mistake, fueled by alcohol and proximity. But now, Kayaal stared at the pregnancy test she'd hidden in her bathroom drawer, hands shaking. 3 minutes. That's all it took to confirm what her body already knew. Positive. She was pregnant with Kang Yoon's child, the man who'd spent weeks telling her she was nothing, who'd performed hatred while secretly developing feelings, who'd just started being honest with her days ago. And now she was carrying his baby. Kayaal, Yoon's voice came through the door. Are you okay? You've been in there 20 minutes. She shoved the test into the drawer. I'm fine, just feeling sick. Should I call Dr. Choi? No, it's nothing. I'll be out in a minute. But when she emerged, Yoon was waiting in her bedroom, concern visible on his face. His shoulder was still bandaged, but he was moving better today. You've been sick every morning this week. That's not nothing. It's stress. Everything that's happened, or it's something medical. Let me have Dr. Choi examine you. No. The word came out too forcefully. Yoon's eyes narrowed. What aren't you telling me? Nothing. I'm fine. Just need some rest. Kayaal. He moved closer, reading her like he'd learned to do in the past few weeks. What's wrong? Really wrong? She could lie, should lie. Give herself time to process before dropping this bomb on their fragile new understanding. But looking at him, this man who'd just started being honest with her, she couldn't. I'm pregnant. The words hung between them like a grenade. Yoon's expression went through multiple emotions in seconds. Shock, confusion, calculation, then something that might have been fear. How long? 7 weeks. She didn't need to finish. Recognition flashed in his eyes. That night, when I came home drunk, he sat on her bed, processing. I barely remember. I thought maybe I'd dreamed it. You never mentioned it, so I assumed. Assumed what? That it didn't happen, that it didn't matter? I assumed you wanted to forget it, that it was a mistake you regretted. His voice was quiet. I was drunk. You were there. I thought I'd taken advantage. That morning, I couldn't look at you because I was ashamed, so I went back to being cold, pretending it never happened. Well, it happened, and now I'm pregnant, with your child. In a marriage, you spent weeks telling me meant nothing. Her voice cracked. So what now? Do you perform hatred toward your baby too? Pretend it doesn't exist? Don't. He stood, moving toward her. Don't assume I'm that cruel. I've done terrible things, said worse things, but I would never. He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. A child, our child, that's terrifying, unwanted, another obligation you're forced into, unexpected, complicated, but not. He touched her face gently. Not unwanted. How could I not want something that's half you? Because you hated me until 3 days ago. I never hated you. I told you that. His eyes held hers. And now you're carrying my child. That changes everything. How? How does it change anything? Because now you're not just the wife I'm learning to care about. You're the mother of my child. That makes you. He searched for words. Sacred, untouchable, the most important thing in my world. That's just possession talking. Biology making you protective. It's more than that. It's. He pulled her close. Carefully. It's realizing I'm going to be a father, that I have a chance to be different from my own father, to build something good instead of just inheriting darkness, and I can't do that without you. Kayaal wanted to believe him, but years of humanitarian work had taught her that men said beautiful things when faced with pregnancy. What mattered was what they did after. So what are you actually going to do about this pregnancy? About us? I'm going to marry you. Actually marry you. Not the civil ceremony forced on us. A real wedding when you're ready, where I can stand in front of everyone and choose you, voluntarily, completely. His hands moved to her still flat stomach. I'm going to dismantle my criminal empire and build something legitimate so our child isn't raised in violence. I'm going to cooperate with Interpol, face consequences for what I've done, and become someone my child can be proud of. And I'm going to love you, really love you, the way I should have from the beginning. That's a pretty speech. It's a promise. He kissed her forehead. I failed you in the beginning of this marriage. I was cruel when I should have been kind, distant when I should have been present. But I'm not failing our child, or you, not again. What if Interpol sends you to prison? What if cooperating means you're not here for... She couldn't finish. Then I'll fight for the lightest sentence possible. Negotiate for house arrest or suspended sentence. Use every connection I have to stay with you and our baby. His determination was absolute. But I'm not running from justice to avoid consequences. Our child deserves a father who faced his crimes and chose to be better, not one who kept running. Later that morning, they met with the Interpol liaison again, this time with Dr. Choi present as witness. Mr. Kang, we have an offer, the liaison began. Full immunity for facilitation charges if you provide complete testimony and evidence against Seo Hyejin's trafficking network. You'll face some financial crimes charges, but we're recommending suspended sentence with community service given your cooperation. And my wife, her NGO, fully protected. Actually, we'd like to partner with her organization. Use their expertise to help victims we recover from the trafficking networks. Kayaal spoke up. I'm pregnant. How does that affect the timeline? The liaison smiled. Congratulations. It doesn't change anything legally. You'll still be protected. And Mr. Kang, he turned serious. Your cooperation is helping us dismantle networks across 3 countries. That counts for something. With luck, you'll be present for your child's birth. No prison time if you continue cooperating fully. After the meeting, Yoon was quieter than usual. Kayaal found him in his office, staring at documents. What's wrong? That was good news. No prison time, immunity, protection. It's almost too good, too easy. His instincts, honed by years in the criminal world, were prickling. Hyejin won't accept this. She's too smart, too connected. She'll retaliate. How? She's in Hong Kong. Interpol is building a case. She has people here, inside my organization, people I trusted who were probably working for her all along. He pulled up security footage on his computer. Watch this. From last night, the footage showed someone in the mansion's security room making a phone call. The conversation wasn't audible, but the body language was clear. Plotting, scheming. Who is that? One of my senior security staff, someone I've trusted for 5 years. Yoon's jaw clenched. He's reporting to someone, and based on timing, he was reporting during our conversation with Interpol. Someone knows our plans. Someone inside this house. So what do? We set a trap. Let him think he's still trusted while we investigate who he's really working for, and we increase security around you, especially around you. If Hyejin knows you're pregnant, he didn't finish, but the implication was clear. She'd see me as a weakness, a way to hurt you. Exactly. Which is why, from now on, you don't go anywhere without security. You stay in secure locations, and he struggled with the words, you consider whether staying with me is worth the danger, because I can protect you, but I can't guarantee your safety. Not completely. Are you asking me to leave? I'm giving you the choice I never gave you before. You can stay, face the danger together, build this life we're starting, or you can go back to Ghana, somewhere Hyejin can't reach, somewhere our baby will be safe, even if I'm not there to protect you both. His eyes were raw. I want you to stay, desperately, but I want you alive more. Kayaal took a breath, considering. Every logical part of her screamed to run, to take this pregnancy somewhere safe, far from criminal empires and assassins and men with complicated redemption arcs. But she looked at Yoon, broken, honest, trying so hard to be better, and knew she couldn't leave. I'm staying. We're staying. Our baby deserves a father who's present, not one we run from. And she took his hand. I think I'm falling for you, actually falling, not just trauma bonding or forced proximity. You, the real you underneath all the performance and fear. You shouldn't. I'm dangerous, damaged, possibly unworthy. I'm a humanitarian who spent years in war zones. I know danger. I know damaged. And I know what's worth fighting for. She kissed him softly. You're worth fighting for. This marriage is worth fighting for. Our family is worth fighting for. So I'm staying. Even knowing you might die? Even knowing I might die. She smiled slightly. Besides, you took a bullet for me. That's at least worth sticking around to see if you'll do it again. That's not funny. It's a little funny. For the first time since she'd known him, Kang Yoon laughed. Genuine, free, unguarded. And in that moment, Kayaal saw the man he could become, the man he was trying to be. And she chose him, completely. But in Hong Kong, Seo Hyejin received a report. Pregnant? She's pregnant with his child? Yes. 7 weeks. They just confirmed it. Perfect. That's perfect. Her smile was vicious. I was going to kill her, but this is better. Let him fall completely in love with her and the baby. Let him imagine his perfect, legitimate family. Then, she pulled out her phone, opening a secure line. Then we destroy it all. Kill her, kill the baby, leave him broken and blamed for their deaths. He'll lose everything, his freedom, his sanity, his redemption story, and I'll take back what was always mine. When? Soon, very soon. Let them feel safe first. Let them think they've won. Then we strike when they're most vulnerable. And if the plan fails, it won't. Because Kang Yoon's greatest weakness isn't violence or money or power. It's love. And now he loves that woman and that baby. Which means, her eyes glittered with malice, he's already lost. 3 days after the pregnancy revelation, Kayaal woke to find Yoon gone. Not unusual. He often had early meetings. But something felt wrong. The air in the mansion was too quiet, too tense. She found Min in the hallway, looking grim. Where's Yoon? Emergency meeting. Someone leaked our cooperation with Interpol. The entire organization knows he's turning evidence. Min's expression was dark. Half his lieutenants are demanding explanation. The other half are calling for his removal. It's chaos. Is he safe? He has security. But Mrs. Kang, you need to stay inside today. The situation is volatile. There are people in the organization who see you as the reason for his betrayal, who think eliminating you solves the problem. Because I'm his weakness. Because you're his conscience, and they don't want him to have one? Min hesitated. There's something else. Something Mr. Kang told me to tell you, if things went wrong. About why he was so cruel to you in the beginning. He said it was to protect me, to make enemies think I didn't matter. It was more than that. When Mr. Kang was 19, he fell in love with a woman. Her name was Minji. She was kind, gentle, everything good in his dark world. His father approved, his organization accepted her. Everyone knew she was his weakness. Min's voice dropped. Then a rival organization kidnapped her, tortured her for 3 days while sending him videos, trying to break him, force him to surrender territory. He mobilized everything to save her, and he did. He got her back. But she was so traumatized, so broken, that she took her own life a week later. Kayaal felt sick. He watched the woman he loved be destroyed because people knew he loved her. Yes. After that, he vowed never to care about anyone again, never to show weakness, never to let love make him vulnerable. Then his father forced him to marry you. The exact situation he'd been avoiding. A wife, a potential weakness, someone enemies could use to destroy him. Min met her eyes. So he performed hatred, made everyone believe you meant nothing. That hurting you wouldn't hurt him. It was protection, Mrs. Kang. Cruel protection, but protection nonetheless. Why are you telling me this now? Because things are about to get very dangerous, and you need to understand everything he did, every cruel word, every rejection. It was because he was terrified of loving you and losing you the way he lost Minji. But now that he's finally admitted he cares, now that you're pregnant, Min's expression turned grave. He'll do anything to protect you, even if it means destroying himself in the process. And you need to be ready for that. Before Kayaal could respond, gunfire erupted downstairs. The attack came from inside the organization. Yoon's own men, or rather, men who'd been pretending to be his while actually working for Hyejin. They stormed the mansion during the meeting, planning to eliminate both Yoon and Kayaal, making it look like a rival organization's attack. But they underestimated Yoon's security. Min moved immediately, pulling Kayaal toward a secure panic room. Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone except Mr. Kang or me. Understood? What about Yoon? He can handle himself. You're carrying his child. You're the priority. Min sealed her inside and disappeared. Kayaal sat in the fortified room, listening to gunfire and shouting, absolutely terrified. She'd been in dangerous situations before, war zones, conflict regions, but this was different. This was people trying to kill her specifically because she'd become important to someone. Her phone buzzed, a video call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Hyejin's face filled the screen, smiling viciously. Hello, Kayaal. Enjoying your panic room? Very sensible, hiding while men fight over you. What do you want? I want you to understand something. This attack, it's not about killing you quickly. It's about breaking Yoon, making him watch you die slowly, knowing he failed to protect you. Just like he failed to protect Minji. Hyejin's smile widened. Oh, did he tell you about her? His first love? The one who killed herself after being tortured because of him? You're her replacement. Same role, same fate. You're insane. I'm practical. Yoon was mine until his father forced that marriage. Now he thinks he loves you, thinks he's building a redemptive family. I'm just correcting that misunderstanding. Once you're dead and that baby is dead, he'll have nothing left, and I'll be there to rebuild him. The way I always have. He'll never forgive you for this. He doesn't need to forgive me. He just needs to need me and trust me. After watching you die, he'll need someone. I'm patient. I'll wait. She leaned closer to the camera. My men are going to breach that panic room in about 5 minutes. When they do, I want you to know, this isn't personal. You're just collateral damage in a much larger game. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong husband. The call ended. Kayaal's hands shook. 5 minutes. She had 5 minutes before they broke through the supposedly secure door. She looked around the panic room. Reinforced walls, no windows, one exit. A prison disguised as protection. Then she saw it. An air vent, large enough for a person, maybe, if they were desperate enough. She was definitely desperate enough. Yoon fought through his mansion like a man possessed. His shoulder still ached from the previous gunshot, but adrenaline and rage overrode the pain. These were his men, people he'd trusted, paid, treated with respect, and they'd betrayed him. For Hyejin, for money, for whatever twisted reasons motivated traitors. Where's my wife? He demanded, taking down another attacker. The panic room, sealed, she's safe. Min was cut off by more gunfire, but Yoon's instincts screamed that something was wrong. The panic room was secure, but Hyejin was too smart to not have a contingency plan. He fought his way to the panic room corridor, finding 3 of Hyejin's men working on breaching the door with specialized equipment. Step away from that door, he commanded, gun raised. They turned, opened fire, and he returned it. Brutal, efficient, lethal. Within 30 seconds, all 3 were down. He approached the panic room door, entering the override code. Kayaal, it's me. You're safe now. The door opened to an empty room. Pure terror gripped him. Kayaal. Then he saw the displaced air vent cover. She'd escaped through the ventilation system, clever, brave, and absolutely terrifying, because now she was somewhere in the walls with armed attackers searching for her. Find her, he commanded into his radio. Every available man searches for my wife, alive and unharmed. Anyone who touches her dies slowly. Kayaal crawled through the ventilation system, trying to remember the mansion's layout. She could hear voices below her, men searching, shouting orders. The metal was cold and cramped, and her pregnant body protested every movement. But she kept going. She had to reach. Where? Outside wasn't safe. Inside wasn't safe. Nowhere was safe. Then she heard Yoon's voice, distant but clear. Kayaal, wherever you are, stay hidden. I'm coming for you. She wanted to respond, to tell him where she was, but that would reveal her position to everyone else listening. The vent opened into what looked like a storage room. She carefully removed the grate, dropped down, and came face to face with one of Hyejin's men. Found her, he shouted into his radio, raising his gun. Kayaal didn't think, just reacted. Years of self-defense training from humanitarian work in conflict zones kicked in. She grabbed a storage shelf, yanked it down between them, creating barrier and distraction. Then she ran. Behind her, the man recovered, gave chase. She could hear his footsteps, his breathing getting closer. A gunshot. The man collapsed. Yoon stood at the corridor entrance, gun still raised, absolute fury in his eyes. Not at her, at the situation, at himself, at everything that had led to this moment. Are you hurt? His voice was tight, controlled terror barely contained. No, the baby is fine. You're fine. You're safe now. He moved to her, pulling her against him with desperate relief. I thought, when the panic room was empty, I thought I'd lost you. You didn't. I escaped. I fought. I survived. She was shaking, adrenaline crashing. Hyejin called me. She planned this. Wanted me to die while you watched. Wanted to break you, like what happened with Minji. His entire body went rigid. Min told you about Minji. He said I needed to understand why you were cruel, why you performed hatred, to protect me the way you couldn't protect her. She looked up at him. I understand now. You weren't trying to hurt me. You were trying to save me. I failed. Look at you, hiding in vents, running from killers, terrified and pregnant, because I dragged you into my nightmare world. His voice cracked. I failed you. Failed our baby. Failed everything. No, you saved me. You always save me. She took his face in her hands. But Yoon, you can't protect me from everything. Some danger just comes with loving someone in your world. And I choose it. I choose you, even knowing the cost. The cost might be your life. Then we make sure I survive. Together. Not you carrying everything alone, trying to control every variable. Together. Before he could respond, Min's voice came through the radio. All hostiles neutralized, mansion secured. But sir, we have a problem. Hyejin's outside with police. She's claiming we attacked her men, that you're holding Mrs. Kang hostage. There are media, authorities. This whole situation is about to become very public. Yoon's expression turned calculating. Then we go public on our terms. Get Kayaal cleaned up, get our lawyer, and get the Interpol liaison on call. We're ending this. Tonight. Permanently. An hour later, they stood in front of the mansion as cameras rolled and police waited. Hyejin was there, perfectly composed, playing the victim. These are my men who were killed. Kang Yoon is out of control, holding his wife prisoner. I came to rescue her. That's a lie, Kayaal said clearly, stepping forward. The media immediately focused on her, the black wife everyone was curious about, now speaking publicly for the first time. Seo Hyejin has been running a human trafficking operation using my husband's organization as cover. When we discovered this and contacted Interpol to cooperate, she sent these men to kill me and my unborn baby, to punish my husband for choosing justice over complicity. The revelation exploded like a bomb. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions. Hyejin's composure cracked. That's absurd. I would never. We have evidence, Yoon said, his lawyer stepping forward with files. Complete documentation of Hyejin's trafficking operations, financial records, communications, testimonies from victims, everything. And it's already been turned over to Interpol. This attack tonight was her attempt to silence us before the evidence became public. The Interpol liaison appeared, uniformed and official. Seo Hyejin, you're under arrest for human trafficking, attempted murder, and conspiracy. Officers? As they moved to arrest her, Hyejin's mask finally shattered. You chose her, over me, over everything we built. We built nothing. Yoon's voice carried across the crowd. You built lies while I looked away. You trafficked humans while I pretended not to know. You tried to murder my wife and child while claiming to love me. I chose Kayaal because she's everything you're not: honest, brave, and genuinely good. And I'll spend the rest of my life becoming worthy of her. Something I could never be with you. As police took Hyejin away, still screaming accusations, Kayaal leaned against Yoon, exhausted. Is it over? Really over? The immediate danger? Yes. The consequences? We'll face those together. He touched her stomach gently. But you're safe. Our baby's safe. That's what matters. What about you? Interpol said immunity, but that was before tonight's violence. I defended my home and my wife. That's legal even in my world. And everything else, I'll face it. Pay whatever price justice demands. But you and our baby, you're protected. That's non-negotiable. They stood together as media documented the scandal, as police processed the crime scene, as their impossible marriage became Seoul's most talked-about story. And despite everything, the violence, the danger, the trauma, Kayaal felt something she hadn't felt since being forced into this marriage. Hope that they might actually survive this, together. The morning after Hyejin's arrest, Kayaal woke to find Yoon already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed with legal documents spread across his lap. What's wrong? She asked, noting the tension in his shoulders. My father's will. The complete, unredacted version just arrived from his lawyers. Apparently, there were clauses even I didn't know about. His voice was strained. Clauses that change everything. What kind of clauses? Yoon handed her the document, pointing to a specific section. Kayaal read, her eyes widening with each line. If, within the 2-year marriage period, Kang Yoon has not transitioned all family business operations to fully legitimate enterprises, the entirety of the Kang estate, including all businesses, properties, and liquid assets, shall be transferred to the charitable organization directed by Kayaal Mensah, to be used exclusively for humanitarian purposes, including, but not limited to, combating human trafficking. Your father, he set this up deliberately. The marriage wasn't just about legitimizing your image, it was about forcing you to actually go legitimate or lose everything. And he chose your NGO specifically, the organization investigating trafficking. He essentially made you the executor of my redemption, whether I cooperated or not. Yoon's laugh was bitter. My father was more manipulative than I gave him credit for. He didn't trust me to change on my own. So he created a mechanism where I either changed willingly or lost my empire to the exact cause I needed to support. How long do you have? We're 4 months into the marriage, 20 months remaining. And according to this, he pointed to another clause. The legitimacy is verified by independent audit, meaning I can't just shuffle money around and pretend. I have to actually dismantle every illegal operation, build legitimate businesses, prove genuine transformation. That's impossible in 20 months. Your empire is huge, complex. My father knew that, which means he expected me to start immediately, to spend the entire 2 years transforming, and I wasted the first 4 months being cruel to you instead of actually changing. He looked at her, something like fear in his eyes. If I fail, if I can't legitimize everything in time, you inherit my empire, and I become the cautionary tale my father wanted me to avoid being. But with Interpol cooperation, with the evidence we're turning over, doesn't that count toward legitimacy? It counts toward not going to prison. It doesn't count toward building legitimate businesses to replace the illegal ones. Yoon stood, pacing. I need to dismantle smuggling networks, close trafficking logistics, terminate criminal partnerships, and simultaneously build legal enterprises that generate equivalent revenue, all while testifying against Hyejin, protecting you from retaliation, and preparing to be a father. So we have 20 months to completely transform your criminal empire into something legitimate. No, we have 20 months or I lose everything to your NGO, which, don't get me wrong, does incredible work and would use the money brilliantly. But it would mean I failed. Failed my father's challenge. Failed to prove I could change. Failed to build something legitimate for our child to inherit. Kayaal processed this new dimension of pressure. Your father really didn't trust you. He loved me enough to force me toward redemption even after his death. That's complicated love, but love nonetheless. Yoon sat beside her again. The question is, do I tell you this and risk you seeing me as an opponent to your NGO's potential windfall? Or do I keep it secret and risk you finding out later that I've been racing against a deadline I didn't share? You tell me. Obviously, we're partners now, honest partners. She took his hand. And I don't want your empire, Yoon. I want you to genuinely transform it. Not because of a deadline or threat, but because it's right. Your father's manipulation aside, this is an opportunity. 20 months to build something legitimate, something our child can be proud of. Let's use it. You make it sound achievable. I've built NGO operations in war zones with no funding and active opposition. You have resources, connections, and a clear goal. It's achievable, just difficult. She smiled slightly. Besides, if you fail, and I inherit everything, I'm using it all for humanitarian work anyway. So either way, the money does good. The only question is whether you're the one doing that good or whether your estate does it after you've lost everything. That's surprisingly motivating. I'm pragmatic. It's my best quality. They spent the day with lawyers, accountants, and business consultants, mapping out a transformation strategy. First priority, close all trafficking adjacent operations immediately, the lead consultant explained. That means terminating partnerships with organizations involved in human cargo, shutting down logistics networks used for illegal transport, and divesting from any businesses that facilitate trafficking even indirectly. That's 30% of my revenue, Yoon said flatly. Then we replace it. Legitimate luxury goods importation is lucrative. You have the contacts, the infrastructure, the reputation. Just remove the illegal component. Partner with actual licensed importers. Pay actual customs fees. Operate above board. That cuts profit margins significantly. It also keeps you out of prison and satisfies your father's will requirements. The consultant pulled up financial projections. You'll lose short-term profit but gain long-term stability. Plus, legitimate businesses can expand in ways criminal ones can't. Franchising, public investment, international partnerships without legal risk. Over the next hours, they built a comprehensive plan. Close all trafficking operations within 3 months, transition smuggling networks, to legitimate import businesses within 6 months, establish legal revenue streams that replaced illegal ones within a year, and spend the remaining time proving sustainability through independent audit. It's aggressive, the consultant admitted, but achievable if you're fully committed. I'm committed, Yoon said, not just because of the deadline, because I want my child to inherit something I'm proud of, not wealth built on suffering. After the consultants left, Kayaal found Yoon in his office, staring at financial projections. You're really doing this? Dismantling everything you built? I'm transforming it. There's a difference. He pulled her onto his lap carefully, mindful of her pregnancy. My father was right. I built an empire, but it was an empire I had to hide from. Couldn't tell people what I really did. Couldn't be proud of my success. Couldn't imagine my child following in my footsteps. That's not legacy. That's shame with money attached. So you build a new legacy, one you can be proud of. We build it. Together. You with your humanitarian expertise, me with my business ruthlessness, just redirected toward legal channels. We make my father's manipulative plan work. He kissed her softly. And we prove that people can change, even people like me, especially people like you. You're not fundamentally bad, Yoon. You're just a product of your environment who's choosing to transcend it. That's harder and braver than being born good. Is that your humanitarian wisdom? That's my falling in love with you wisdom. Slightly biased, completely genuine. He held her closer, and they sat in comfortable silence. Two people who'd started as enemies, been forced into marriage, survived assassination attempts, and were now genuinely building something together. It was messy, complicated, and absolutely imperfect. But it was theirs. 2 weeks later, Yoon held a meeting with his entire organization. Every lieutenant, every manager, every person who'd worked for the Kang Syndicate gathered in the conference hall, confusion and concern visible. Kayaal watched from a private balcony, 7 months pregnant now, her presence a silent reminder of what was at stake. I've gathered you here to explain the future of this organization, Yoon began, his voice commanding the room. As of today, we're transitioning to fully legitimate operations. All trafficking logistics shut down, all smuggling that violates international law terminated, all partnerships with criminal organizations dissolved. We're going legitimate, completely, within 20 months. The room erupted, protests, questions, anger. You're destroying everything we built. You're letting your wife's morality destroy profit. This is weakness. This is evolution. Yoon's voice cut through the chaos. Yes, we lose short-term profit. Yes, we terminate lucrative partnerships. But we gain something more valuable, legitimacy. The ability to operate without constantly looking over our shoulders. The chance to build businesses we're actually proud of. And for those of you with families, the ability to tell your children what you actually do without lying. What about those of us who don't want legitimacy? One lieutenant challenged. Who like the old way? Then you leave, with severance and my blessing. I'm not forcing anyone to stay for this transformation. But understand, the Kang Syndicate is going legitimate. Those who stay accept that. Those who don't find other employment. His expression hardened. But if you leave and compete with me, if you try to sabotage this transformation, if you work against me in any way, then you remember who I am. what I'm capable of. Legitimacy doesn't mean softness. It means calculated ruthlessness within legal boundaries. And I promise you, I'm very good at being ruthless. The threat was clear. Support the transformation or leave, but betray him and face consequences. Why now? Another manager asked. Why this sudden moral awakening? Yoon looked up at the balcony where Kayaal stood, making his motivation clear. Because I'm going to be a father, and I want my child to inherit something legitimate, something sustainable, something good. My wife has shown me that's possible, that change isn't weakness, it's strength. And I'm choosing that strength. All of you can choose it too, or choose to leave. But those are your only options. By the end of the meeting, 30% of his organization had resigned, but 70% stayed, choosing transformation, choosing legitimacy, choosing to follow Yoon into uncharted territory. That went better than expected, Min said afterward. I thought we'd lose half. We lost the ones who were only here for a legal profit. We kept the ones who value loyalty, sustainability, and transformation. That's the foundation we build on. Yoon looked at Kayaal. How are you feeling? All that standing? I'm fine, and I'm proud of you. That took courage, confronting your entire organization, offering them choice instead of force. That's leadership. That's desperation. I have 20 months to prove I can change. Today was day 1. Then we have 609 days to go, one day at a time. But not everyone who left the organization left peacefully. 3 days after the meeting, Min discovered concerning intelligence. Some of Yoon's former lieutenants had approached rival organizations, offering insider information about the Kang Syndicate's transformation, positioning Yoon as weak, vulnerable, ripe for takeover. They're trying to destroy you from outside what they couldn't control from inside, Min explained. And they're specifically targeting Mrs. Kang, saying she's the weakness, the moral corruption, the reason for your downfall. He hesitated. There's talk of another assassination attempt, more sophisticated this time. Then we increase security, again, make Kayaal untouchable. Sir, with respect, you can't live in paranoia forever. At some point, you need to address the root threat. These former associates, the rival organizations they've aligned with, they need to be handled permanently. You're suggesting I kill them. I'm suggesting you remind them why people fear the Kang name. Legitimacy doesn't mean tolerating direct threats to your wife and child. Yoon was quiet for a long moment. Then, no, we handle this legally. We have Interpol cooperation now. We document the threats, provide evidence to authorities, let the legal system handle them. I'm not killing my way out of problems anymore. That's the old way. We're building something new. Even if the legal way is slower, less certain, even then, because our child is going to ask someday, how did you protect our mother? And I want to answer honestly, not with sanitized lies about doing what was necessary, but with truth, that I chose justice over vengeance, law over violence, being worthy over being feared. Min studied his boss with something like respect. You've changed, sir. Genuinely changed. I'm trying to. Every day. Sometimes successfully. Sometimes not. But I'm trying. And that has to count for something. Later that night, Kayaal asked him about the threats. Min told me about the assassination talk. Should I be worried? You should be careful, but not paralyzed by fear. I have security, resources, and He touched her very pregnant belly. Significant motivation to keep you alive. You're safe, I promise. You can't promise that. Not completely. Then I promise I'll do everything legally possible to protect you. And if legal methods fail, he stopped. Let's hope legal methods don't fail. But if they do, would you kill for me? For our baby? Yes, he admitted quietly. I'm trying to be better. Trying to be legitimate. But if someone directly threatens you or our child, I'll protect you with whatever means necessary, legal or otherwise. That's the one line I won't cross. Everything else, I'm transforming. But not that. Never that. That's honest. It's the truth. I'm becoming legitimate, but I'm not becoming harmless. There's a difference, and I need you to understand that. The man you're falling for is still dangerous. Just dangerous in defense rather than offense. I can live with that, as long as you're honest about it. Always. No more lies. No more performance. Just truth, however uncomfortable. They lay together, his hand on her stomach where their baby was kicking. And despite the threats, despite the transformation stress, despite everything, they felt something like peace. Temporary peace. Fragile peace. But peace nonetheless. And for now, that was enough. The attack came 6 weeks before Kayaal's due date. Not a frontal assault like before, but something more insidious. A coordinated effort by Yoon's former lieutenants and rival organizations to destroy his transformation from multiple angles simultaneously. First, legal challenges, lawsuits claiming Yoon had stolen assets during the transition, that his legitimacy was fraudulent, that he owed former partners compensation for terminated contracts. Second, business sabotage, suppliers suddenly refusing contracts, partners withdrawing, customs officials finding irregularities in shipments that were completely legal. Third, media attacks, anonymous sources leaking half-truths about Yoon's criminal past, his forced marriage, suggesting Kayaal was complicit or being held captive, painting the entire transformation as publicity stunt. And fourth, the most dangerous, direct threats against Kayaal. Not just assassination whispers, but coordinated stalking, surveillance, making it clear she was being watched constantly. They're trying to break you psychologically, Min explained during an emergency meeting. Force you to choose between continuing the transformation or protecting your wife. Make you decide legitimacy or family safety. That's not a choice I'm making. We protect Kayaal and continue the transformation simultaneously. Yoon's exhaustion was visible. He'd been working 20-hour days managing crises. What's the status on the legal challenges? Being handled. Our lawyers say they're frivolous, but they tie up resources and create negative publicity. The business sabotage? Finding alternative suppliers. It's slower and more expensive, but we're managing. The media attacks? We counter with truth. Release documentation of the transformation. Show the audit progress. Let independent journalists verify our legitimacy. It's working, slowly, but public opinion is shifting in our favor. And the threats against Kayaal? That's the problem. They're escalating. Yesterday, someone left a package at the mansion gate, a baby outfit covered in red paint. Today, her NGO office received a letter detailing exactly how they'd kill her and the baby. It's psychological warfare, sir, and it's working. Mrs. Kang is terrified. Yoon's hands clenched. Where is she now? In the safe room, refusing to leave. She hasn't slept in 2 days. Yoon found Kayaal exactly where Min said, sitting in the panic room, heavily pregnant, dark circles under her eyes, looking more exhausted than he'd ever seen her. "You need to sleep," he said gently. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see the threats. Imagine someone breaking in, hurting our baby." Her voice shook. "I thought I was brave. I've worked in war zones, faced danger before. But this, threatening my baby, I can't handle it. Then we end it. Tonight. Permanently." His voice was cold, decided. "What are you planning?" "To remind everyone why they feared me in the first place. The legal approach isn't working fast enough. The threats are escalating. So I'm going to handle this the old way. Swift, brutal, and final." "You mean kill them?" "I mean eliminate the threat using whatever methods necessary. Legal if possible, illegal if required, but definitive. You and our baby are more important than my redemption arc." He knelt beside her. "I've been trying to be better, trying to transform legally, but watching you terrorized, our baby threatened. I'm done playing by rules they're not following. If you kill them, you prove they're right, that the transformation was fake, that you're still the same criminal. If they kill you, none of that matters. I'll be a legitimate businessman with a dead wife and child. Is that the legacy I want?" His eyes were desperate. "Kayaal, I'm asking for your permission. To protect you the only way I know definitely works. Violently. Permanently. Even if it destroys everything we've been building." She should have said no, should have insisted on legal methods, on staying true to the transformation. But she was 8 months pregnant, exhausted, and absolutely terrified. "Do what you need to do. Just make us safe. Please." Yoon moved that night with the precision of the criminal he'd been for 15 years. He gathered his most loyal men, not the ones who'd stayed for legitimacy, but the ones who'd stayed for him. The dangerous ones. The ones who remembered who Kang Yoon really was underneath the Reformation. "Here's what's happening," he told them. "Former associates are threatening my wife and unborn child. Legal methods are too slow. So tonight, we remind them what happens when you threaten what's mine. Not death. I'm not giving them martyrdom, but consequences severe enough that they regret ever speaking my wife's name." "What kind of consequences?" one lieutenant asked. "Destroyed businesses, frozen accounts, evidence of their crimes delivered to authorities. Leverage that makes them vulnerable the way they've made my wife vulnerable. And if they resist," his smile was cold, "then we get creative. Within legal boundaries when possible. Beyond them when necessary, but definitive. By morning, the threats stop. Understood?" They understood. Over the next 8 hours, Yoon's team executed a coordinated strike against everyone who'd been part of the threats. Not violent, though there were a few physical confrontations when targets resisted, but comprehensive. Business rivals found their illegal operations exposed to authorities. Former lieutenants discovered their new criminal partnerships dismantled. Suppliers who'd been bribed to sabotage Yoon's business found themselves facing fraud charges. The coordinated attack that had been building against the Kang Syndicate collapsed as its architects scrambled to save themselves. And Yoon was careful, documented everything, kept within legal boundaries when possible, made sure any illegal actions couldn't be traced back to him. He was dismantling threats the way he'd built his empire, strategically, ruthlessly, and with plausible deniability. By dawn, it was over. 7 former associates in custody on various charges, Min reported. 3 rival organizations crippled by evidence leaks. Business sabotage networks exposed and terminated, and the people making direct threats. He pulled up photos, delivered to Interpol with complete documentation of their crimes. They'll be in prison for years. And the threats against Kayaal? Eliminated. Everyone involved is either in custody or too busy dealing with their own legal problems to threaten anyone. It's done, sir. She's safe. Yoon returned to the mansion, where Kayaal was finally sleeping in their bedroom, protected by security, but no longer hiding in panic rooms. He sat beside the bed, watching her, and felt the weight of what he'd done. He'd promised transformation, promised legitimacy, and last night he'd returned to old methods. Ruthless, borderline illegal, definitely not the man he'd been trying to become. But Kayaal was safe. Their baby was safe. And wasn't that worth more than ideological purity? When she woke, she immediately asked, "Is it over?" "It's over. The people threatening you are in custody or neutralized. You're safe." "How did you do it? What methods did you use?" "Legal ones when possible. Questionable ones when necessary. Nothing that can be traced back or used against us, but not entirely the transformation approach we'd been following." He met her eyes. "I'm sorry. I promised to be better, to handle things legitimately. And last night, I was exactly who I've been trying not to be. You were a husband protecting his wife, a father protecting his unborn child." She touched his face. "I'm not going to judge you for that, not when the alternative was waiting for legal systems to maybe eventually protect us while threats escalated. You did what was necessary. Your humanitarian ethics should be appalled. My humanitarian ethics understand that sometimes idealism has to meet reality. You didn't kill anyone, didn't torture anyone. You used your resources and connections to neutralize threats through methods that were gray area, maybe, but not black. That's not abandoning transformation. That's navigating its complexities. You're being remarkably understanding for someone who built a career on idealism. I'm being a realist, and also," she smiled slightly, "also relieved I can finally sleep without terror. So thank you for keeping us safe, even if the methods weren't perfect." He kissed her softly. "No more threats, no more attacks, just the transformation work and preparing for our baby. That's the plan. Good plan. I like it." 6 weeks later, their daughter was born. Amara Kang entered the world at 6:47 a.m., healthy and loud, with her mother's dark skin and her father's intense eyes. Yoon held her for the first time and wept, genuine tears he didn't try to hide. "She's perfect," he whispered. "Absolutely perfect. She's ours," Kayaal said, exhausted but radiant. "Our impossible miracle from an impossible situation." Kwame arrived at the hospital with flowers, having transformed himself over the past months into a responsible adult working legitimately with Interpol. "I can't believe I'm an uncle. This is surreal." "Everything about this family is surreal," Yoon said, still holding his daughter. "But it's ours, built from forced marriage and hatred and survival. And somehow, it's beautiful." Over the next days, visitors arrived. Min brought gifts and congratulations. Yoon's remaining organization sent elaborate presents. Even the Interpol liaison visited, confirming that Yoon's cooperation had led to the dismantling of major trafficking networks across 3 countries. "Your transformation is remarkable, Mr. Kang," the liaison said. "From criminal facilitator to key witness to legitimate businessman to father. That's unprecedented." "I had good motivation," Yoon said, looking at Kayaal and Amara. "The best motivation." A week after the birth, during a quiet evening at home, Kayaal brought up the timeline. "We have 14 months left, until the 2-year deadline, until the audit determines if you've legitimized enough to keep the empire or if it transfers to my NGO. Are you worried? I'm curious. Are you going to make it? Full legitimacy in 14 months? Honestly, I don't know. The transformation is progressing. 60% of operations are legitimate now. The rest are transitioning. But there are still gray areas, still connections that are technically legal but morally questionable. The independent audit might see those and rule against me. And if you lose everything, if it all goes to my NGO, then I'll have lost my empire but gained a family. That's not the outcome I planned, but not the worst outcome either." He looked at their sleeping daughter. "I built that empire to have power, respect, control. But what's the point of power if you're alone? What's respect built on fear worth compared to love built on honesty? What's control worth if you're controlling a life you hate? So you're okay with potentially losing everything? I'm okay with having already gained what matters. You, Amara, a chance at redemption. If I keep the empire too, great. If not," he pulled Kayaal close, "I'll still have more than I had when this started." That's surprisingly healthy perspective from a former crime boss. "I have a good therapist and a better wife." He kissed her. "Whatever happens in 14 months, we face it together, as partners, as family. That's what matters." 12 months later, the independent audit began. Auditors arrived, examining every business, every partnership, every transaction, looking for evidence of full legitimacy or finding remaining criminal connections. It took 6 weeks, 6 agonizing weeks, where Yoon's entire transformation was scrutinized, questioned, verified. Finally, the audit results arrived. Yoon and Kayaal sat together in his office, now their office, as she'd become full partner in the legitimate businesses, as the lead auditor presented findings. "Mr. Kang, after comprehensive review, we've determined that 87% of your business operations are fully legitimate, legal, and compliant with all regulations. The remaining 13% are in transition, not illegal, but not yet completely legitimate. Partnerships being phased out, operations being restructured. So I failed." Yoon's voice was flat. The requirement was full legitimacy. The requirement was demonstrable good faith effort toward full legitimacy with reasonable progress. You've exceeded that standard. Yes, 13% remains in transition, but given the scope of your empire and the compressed timeline, this represents extraordinary achievement. Our recommendation, the auditor pulled out the official report. Full compliance with your father's will requirements. The Kang estate remains under your control. The relief was overwhelming. Kayaal grabbed Yoon's hand, squeezing hard. "You did it. You actually transformed your empire. We did it. You, me, Min, everyone who believed this was possible." He looked at the auditor. "What about the remaining 13%? The operations still in transition?" "Continue the work," Full legitimacy within another 6 months is achievable based on current progress. But for purposes of your father's will, you've satisfied the requirements. The estate is yours. After the auditor left, Yoon and Kayaal sat in stunned silence. 2 years ago, I hated you, Yoon said quietly. Performed cruelty to keep distance, resented every moment of our forced marriage. And now you're legitimate, a father, building something you're proud of, married to someone you chose instead of someone you were forced to accept. Exactly. Everything changed. I changed. Because you refused to let me stay who I was, challenged me, loved me despite everything, became my conscience and my partner and my everything. We changed each other. I was all idealism without pragmatism. You were all pragmatism without ideals. Together, we found balance. Together, he agreed, always together. Their daughter cried from the nursery. They both stood, moving to comfort her. Two people who'd started as enemies, survived everything, and built something impossible. A family, a legacy, a love that shouldn't have worked, but did. Against all odds, against all expectations. Together. 5 years after the forced marriage, Kayaal stood in the newly opened Kang Foundation building, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to combating human trafficking and supporting survivors. It was funded entirely by the now legitimate Kang Enterprises, a tangible symbol of transformation completed. Mama, look! 5-year-old Amara ran up, her curly hair bouncing, dragging her little brother Taeyang, named after Yoon's father, behind her. At 3, he was quieter than his sister, but just as determined. What is it, baby? Uncle Kwame says I can help with the new kids coming today, the ones you're rescuing. Helping means staying quiet while the adults work, Amara. These children have been through trauma. They need calm, not excitement. I can be calm. Watch. Amara stood perfectly still for approximately 3 seconds before fidgeting. See? Super calm. Kayaal laughed, pulling her daughter close. You're perfect, even when you're not calm. Yoon appeared from a conference room, now dressed in business casual rather than the all-black intimidation wear of his criminal days. At 38, he'd aged into his features, still sharp, still commanding, but softer somehow. Fatherhood and legitimacy suited him. The board meeting is done. The expansion into 3 new countries is approved. Your NGO will have full funding and support from Kang Enterprises for the next decade. He kissed Kayaal's cheek, then scooped up both children. And how are my troublemakers today? Not troublemakers, Amara protested. We're helpers. The most helpful helpers, Yoon agreed seriously. Now, who wants to help me inspect the new playground equipment? Me, both children shouted, and he carried them off, their laughter echoing through the hall. Kwame approached, now the Kang Foundation's director of operations. He'd completely transformed from the reckless gambler who'd started this entire situation. Now responsible, dedicated, using his insider knowledge of criminal networks to help dismantle them legally. Hard to believe this is the same man who threatened to destroy you 5 years ago, Kwame said, watching Yoon play with the children. He's not the same man. Neither am I. Kayaal smiled. We grew together, changed each other, built something neither of us imagined possible. The fairy tale ending to a nightmare beginning. I don't know about fairy tale. We still fight, still have hard days, still navigate the complexities of his past and my idealism clashing. But it's real, honest, built on choice instead of force. She turned to her brother. And it started because you made a terrible decision that forced us together. So thank you, I guess, in the most complicated way possible? Kwame laughed. You're welcome, I think, though I still feel guilty about the forced marriage part. You should, but you've also spent 5 years making amends, working for the foundation, helping survivors, using your experience to prevent others from making your mistakes. That counts for something. Does Yoon forgive me? Really forgive me, not just tolerate me for your sake? He made you godfather to Taeyang. That's not tolerance. That's family. She squeezed her brother's shoulder. You're forgiven, Kwame, by both of us. Now stop dwelling and help me prepare for the new arrivals. That evening, after the children were asleep, Kayaal and Yoon sat on their balcony overlooking Seoul. The mansion had been renovated, less fortress, more home, still secure but welcoming, a place where children played instead of where prisoners were kept. The auditor called, Yoon said. Final verification. 100% of our operations are legitimate. No gray areas remaining. We're completely clean. How does it feel? To have fully transformed everything? Surreal, exhausting, satisfying in ways I didn't expect. He pulled her close. I thought legitimacy would feel like loss, giving up power, profit, control. Instead, it feels like freedom, being able to tell people what I actually do, taking my children to my offices without hiding anything, sleeping without worrying about police raids or rival attacks. That's worth more than illegal profit ever was. Any regrets? About losing the empire you built? I didn't lose it. I transformed it. The empire still exists. It's just legal now. Luxury, import, export, international consulting, real estate development. We make less profit than we did trafficking and smuggling, but we make enough. And I can be proud of it. That's what I was missing before. Pride. I had power, wealth, fear. But I couldn't be proud of what I'd built. Now I can. Your father would be proud. My manipulative, controlling, ultimately well-intentioned father who forced this entire situation through his death. Yoon's smile was complicated. Yes, he'd be proud. He'd also be insufferably smug about being right. About you being exactly what I needed. About forcing the transformation I was too stubborn to choose myself. Do you resent him? For the forced marriage? The manipulation? I resented him for years. But now, Yoon looked through the window at their sleeping children. Now I'm grateful. He gave me you. Gave me Amara and Taeyang. Gave me a chance at redemption I wouldn't have taken otherwise. His methods were questionable, but his intentions were right. That's complicated love, but love nonetheless. Like our marriage. Started from force. Became choice. Began with hatred. Transformed to love. Exactly. He kissed her softly. I hated you once. Performed that hatred so convincingly I almost believed it myself. Now I can't imagine life without you. That's the biggest transformation of all. Not the business legitimacy, the emotional legitimacy. Learning to love honestly instead of defensively. I love you too, even though you were absolutely terrible to me for months. Even though you threatened to destroy me. Even though, she laughed, even though this whole thing started with me being literally sold into marriage. Worst meet cute in history. Best outcome, though. Best outcome, he agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Seoul's lights before Kayaal spoke again. Min's retiring next month. Says he's earned rest after helping transform a criminal empire into legitimate businesses while managing your emotional growth. He's not wrong. I'm throwing him the biggest retirement party in Seoul's history. He deserves it. Stayed loyal through everything, questioned me when I needed it, supported the transformation even when it seemed impossible. Who's replacing him? No one. I'm restructuring. Instead of a right-hand man, I'm having an executive board, distributed leadership, less criminal hierarchy, more legitimate corporate structure. He smiled. Your influence. You've been saying for years that concentrating power in one person is how corruption starts. So I'm building something different. Checks and balances, accountability, all the things I used to think made organizations weak, but actually make them strong. Look at you. Former Mafia boss, talking about accountability and distributed leadership. That's character growth. I have a good teacher and good motivation. He touched her face gently. Everything I've built, the legitimate businesses, the foundation, the life we have, it's for you and our children. To prove I'm worthy of being loved, to show I can change, to build a legacy that's actually worth passing down. You're already worthy. You proved that when you chose to change, instead of staying comfortable in your old ways. Every day I prove it, or try to. Some days I succeed. Some days I fall back into old patterns. Controlling, defensive, suspicious. But I keep trying, because you deserve the best version of me. And our children deserve a father they can admire, not fear. The next morning, they attended the grand opening ceremony for the Kang Foundation's international headquarters. Media was present, the same media that had covered their scandalous forced marriage 5 years ago. Now they were covering the redemption story. Former crime boss turned humanitarian philanthropist, forced bride turned equal partner, impossible marriage turned genuine love story. Mr. Kang, a reporter called out, 5 years ago, you were known as one of Seoul's most dangerous criminals. Now you're funding anti-trafficking work and running completely legitimate businesses. What changed? Yoon looked at Kayaal, then back at the reporter. My father forced me into marriage with a woman who represented everything I wasn't. Ethical, compassionate, dedicated to helping others instead of exploiting them. I resented her for months. Made her life miserable, performed hatred because I was terrified of vulnerability. But she didn't let me stay who I was. She challenged me, changed me, showed me I could be more than my worst choices. That's what changed. I met someone who believed I was capable of being better, and I decided to prove her right. Mrs. Kang, another reporter asked, you were essentially sold into marriage to clear your brother's debt. Do you resent how this relationship started? I resent the circumstances that forced it. My brother's poor choices, the exploitation, being used as a pawn. But I don't resent the outcome. My husband and I built something real from an impossible situation. We chose each other after being forced together. That choice, made freely, with full knowledge of each other's flaws, that matters more than how we started. She took Yoon's hand. We're proof that people can change, that love can grow even from hatred, that redemption is possible if you're willing to do the work. What about your brother? Is he here today? Kwame stepped forward, more confident than he'd been 5 years ago. I'm here, and I want to be clear. What I did, forcing my sister into marriage to clear my debt, that was wrong, exploitative, the worst thing I've ever done. But my sister and brother-in-law have shown me grace I didn't deserve, given me opportunity to make amends by working with this foundation, helping other trafficking victims, ensuring no one else is exploited the way I exploited my own family. That's redemption I'm still working toward. Every day. The ceremony continued with speeches from trafficking survivors the foundation had helped, from Interpol representatives praising the Kang family's cooperation, from international partners celebrating the expansion. And through it all, Amara and Taeyang played nearby, beautiful symbols of what could grow from impossible beginnings. That night, after another exhausting but fulfilling day, Kayaal found Yoon in their home office. He was looking at a framed photo, the original forced marriage certificate from 5 years ago, which they'd kept as a reminder of how far they'd come. Thinking about the beginning, she asked. Thinking about how much I hated this photo, hated that ceremony, hated being forced into marriage, hated you for existing and complicating my life. He pulled her onto his lap, and now it's my favorite photo. Because it's where everything started, where my real life began, even though I couldn't see it then. We should do a vow renewal, a real wedding ceremony, where we choose each other voluntarily, publicly, with family and friends celebrating instead of just witnesses at a civil office. I'd like that, though I think we've already chosen each other, every day for 5 years. A ceremony just makes it official. Then let's make it official. Give our children a memory of their parents actually wanting to be married instead of being forced into it. Deal. But I'm writing my own vows this time. No standard ceremony. I want to say exactly what you mean to me. His eyes held hers. That you're my salvation, my conscience, my partner in everything. That you transformed me from a man who'd given up on being good into someone who actually tries. That you gave me a family I'm proud of, a life I'm proud of, a legacy worth building. That I love you more than I thought I was capable of loving anyone. That's what I want to say, in front of everyone, so they know. That's beautiful, and I'll say that you're my unexpected miracle, that you proved people can change if they're brave enough to try, that you protect me without controlling me, love me without possessing me, partner with me without diminishing me, that our impossible beginning became my favorite love story, that I choose you, every day, freely, completely. We're disgustingly romantic for two people who started with death threats and hatred. We contain multitudes. He laughed, kissing her deeply. I love you, Kayaal Kang. Former captive, current partner, always my salvation. I love you too, Kang Yoon. Former captor, current husband, always my impossible miracle. 6 months later, they renewed their vows in a beautiful ceremony. Not in a sterile civil office, but in a garden filled with family and friends. Kwame walked Kayaal down the aisle. Min stood as Yoon's best man. Amara was flower girl. Taeyang was ring bearer, and both children took their jobs very seriously. The ceremony blended Ghanaian and Korean traditions, honoring both their cultures, both their families, both the people they'd been and the people they'd become. And when Yoon said his vows, speaking from the heart about transformation, redemption, and love that grew from impossible soil, There wasn't a dry eye in the venue. Kayal's vows were equally moving, talking about choosing love over safety, growth over comfort, believing in people's capacity for change even when they didn't believe in themselves. They exchanged new rings, these ones chosen freely, worn proudly, symbols of choice instead of coercion. And when the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," again, voluntarily this time, everyone laughed through their tears. The reception was joyful, diverse, bringing together humanitarian workers and former criminals who'd gone legitimate, African and Korean families, past and present, united in celebration. 5 years ago, I never imagined this, Yoon told Kayaal during their first dance. Being genuinely happy, having a family, building something I'm proud of. You gave me all of that. We gave it to each other. I needed you as much as you needed me, just in different ways. What did you need me for? I was terrible to you. You taught me that idealism without pragmatism is ineffective, that the world is complicated, people are complicated, and sometimes the right choice isn't the pure choice. You made me a better humanitarian by showing me the human complexity I was judging too simply. And you, she touched his face. You loved me enough to change everything. That's powerful. I'd change everything again, 1,000 times. If it meant having you, having our family, having this life. That's what I never understood before. That love makes you stronger, not weaker. That vulnerability with the right person is power, not liability. That being truly known and truly loved is worth more than any empire. They danced surrounded by family, both blood and chosen, celebrating not just a marriage, but a transformation, a redemption, a love that shouldn't have worked but did, because sometimes the worst beginnings lead to the best endings. Sometimes forced marriages become chosen partnerships. Sometimes hatred transforms into love. And sometimes, just sometimes, people change, not because they're forced to, but because they finally find someone worth changing for. The end. Thank you for following Kayaal and Yoon's journey from forced marriage and hatred to genuine love and transformation. If you enjoyed their story of redemption, impossible love, and choosing each other despite everything, make sure you're subscribed for more emotional Afro-Korean romance stories. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. See you in the next one. Would you forgive someone who treated you cruelly at first if they genuinely changed? Could you fall in love with someone you were forced to marry? Have you ever seen someone truly transform for love? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.